Today we are going to answer a question that has been plaguing the Jewish people and their Gentile employers for hundreds of years. And that question is, why did Hashem jam-pack the month of Tishrei with so many Jewish holidays? We have an expression, spread the wealth. Spread out the holidays among months. Why do there need to be back-to-back-to-back Yomim Tovim in 1 month? And anyone who's ever held a job for more than 1 year knows the awkward situation when he has to go into his boss's office and explain what's about to take place. Let's just describe the conversation. Hey Bob, hi Yankel, how you doing? Do you think I can maybe take vacation next week? It's a Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. Oh, New Year! I've heard of a New Year. We have a New Year too, for sure. Take it off, 2 days, enjoy yourself. He comes in next week. Hey Bob, you think I can take off 1 more day? What's this? What day? Yom Kippur, it's the holiest day of our year, the Day of Atonement. Ah, Yom Kippur! I've heard of that. It's a famous day. For sure, take off, no problem. And then the awkwardness begins. Hey Bob, can I take off another 8 days? What do you mean? You just took off last week and the week before. What do you need 8 days for? Well, you know, there's this another holiday coming up called Sukkot. Sukkot. I've never heard of that. What exactly is this holiday? Well, you see, we go out and we live in huts for a week. And then at the end we have this other holiday called Shmini Atzeres where we dance around in circles. And Bob says, you serious? He said, yeah. It's commemorating leaving Egypt. And he says, whoa. Back in April, you asked for 7 days off to commemorate leaving Egypt. What's this all about? And he said, well, it's kind of a machlokes, whether it's real huts, sukkos mamish, or the ananei hakavod. It's a little bit complicated. I'm really not so sure. And Bob looks at you like, what? And you say, you know what, forget it. I'm sorry. You walk out. Why does that have to take place? What does Sukkot have to do with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? And if you look at this on a superficial, external level, so it's a very, very deep, very difficult question. But when you go deeper and you learn the writings of the Arizal, you find out that these are not independent holidays. This is a single circuit. It's a process known as Binyan Hanukkvah, the building of Klal Yisrael. And the Arizal explains what this means. He says that every year, the soul of Klal Yisrael needs to be rebuilt and it needs to be defined as to what Hashem needs to provide it for the coming year. What tests it needs to go through, what tribulations that will progress it towards its ultimate goal of Mashiach. And the same way that this takes place on a national level, it also takes place on the individual level, on the micro level, because the Shechina, the soul of Klal Yisrael, is none other than a sum of its parts. And therefore every Jew goes through this process. And I'll give you a mashal that I think will do a beautiful job in illustrating what it is we are trying to accomplish during these times, which begin with Rosh Chodesh Elul, and which come to their climax on Simchas Torah Shmini Atzeres. And the mashal is actually something that I went through. I was working in a yeshiva, and the yeshiva actually went through a difficult period that resulted in complete bankruptcy. And this yeshiva had to actually close down and go through a very difficult restructuring. And they hired an expert. His name was Natanel. His job was to go into yeshivas and not-for-profit organizations and rebuild them from the ground up. So he came in and he saw this yeshiva that was straddled with debt. It had lawsuits. It had personnel issues. And the untrained individual would walk in and say, okay, it's time to clean up the mess. Let's hire some lawyers, take care of the lawsuits. Let's raise some money, take care of the debt. Let's fire some personnel. But that's not what Natanel did. He had a whole different process. And it worked in 3 different phases. Phase 1, he called the strategic review. He did not come in and change anything. Rather, he gathered a meeting of the board of directors, the CEO, the CFO, the Rosh Yeshiva, the Menahel, and he had them sit in a room. And he said, we have to understand what went wrong. What was this yeshiva supposed to look like? It was not supposed to be in debt. It was not supposed to have lawsuits. It was supposed to thrive. So I want you to write me out a mission statement. What is the ideal? What is the potential of this yeshiva? And then we will compare it to the actual and we'll see where we went wrong. So they sat in a room for a month. At the end of that month, they wrote out this mission statement. This is who we are. This is our goal. This is what we strive to accomplish, and this is how we're going to thrive. Now, after Nathanael had this document, he said, okay, now we can hold up this document, and we can look at what the yeshiva looks like today. And we can see which things are incongruent, what needs to go, what needs to be cut away. And after that process, he went into phase 2, which was the restructuring. Now, this was a painful process. In this process, he had to deal with the debt. He had to deal with the lawsuits. He had to fire half of the yeshiva staff that didn't align with the vision, with the new vision, with the renewed vision of this yeshiva. And after this process was finally complete, after that painful week, he said, okay, it's time to relaunch the yeshiva. And you might think that Nathanael was done with his job, but that's not true. He was not done. He stayed on for a full month after he finished this process to make sure that the yeshiva was run according to the mission statement, to make sure that they lived up to what they needed, and not only that, but that they could hold someone's hand who had this experience that can guide them and ensure that they would succeed. Now, this mashal is literally the exact process that we go through every single Elul through Simchas Torah Shmini Atzeres. When we get to Elul, we're supposed to do a cheshbon nefesh. Our year did not necessarily go according to plan. At the end of last Rosh Hashanah, we walked out and we said we're going to be tzaddikim. And many of us did not live up to that goal. And we need to understand, where did we go off the track? Where did we get lost? We need to get a GPS. So we read the Sifrei Musar. We go through Elul and we define what is our mission statement. What are we supposed to look like? What is our potential? What is a Jew? What is a soul? And we try to define what that actually is. And on Rosh Hashanah, we write our mission statement. On that one day, we become the person that we will be striving to become in reality for that coming year. And after Rosh Hashanah, we have to go through phase 2, the restructuring. Now, that's a painful process. That's Yaser Smei Tshuva. That's when we need to tear out the pieces of our psyche, the pieces of our neshama that do not align with the person we want to become. We need to look at the ideal, that individual we became on Rosh Hashanah, and we need to see how we need to cut away the excess fat to become that perfect potential us. And after that painful process is complete, we get to relaunch our life. What is that? That's what Sukkot is all about. There's a mitzvah on Motzei Yom Kippur. The second that this fast ends, we go from angels and we walk outside and we take sticks, wood, we take nails and a hammer and we build a sukkah. What does that mean? Hashem says, I have enough angels in the heavens. I need you to build a dira b'tachtonim. I need you to build a life for me in this world. I need you to re-engage the physical world with this new message, with this new mission statement. But he says, don't worry. I'm not going to leave you by yourself. I'm going to hold your hand. When a child learns how to ride a bike, there's 2 types of parents that will help them learn. There's the bad father and there's the good father. The bad father takes his kid, he puts him on a bike, and he says, you got this, buddy. And then he launches him off into the street. And the kid crashes into a tree, and he becomes one of those rollerblading kids for the rest of his life because he doesn't want to get back on a bike. And then there's the father that he runs with his son, and he holds that bike and says, don't worry, you got this. And he runs with him 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, until he sees his son has that confidence, and then he slowly lets go without the son even noticing. And his son goes off into the sunset and rides his bike. And Hashem says, don't worry, I'm not going to make you go by yourself. I'm going to sit with you in the sukkah. And the Shekhinah is going to be there with you, and it's going to teach you how to re-engage the world. What are the mitzvahs of the sukkah? It's eating, it's sleeping, it's physicality. It's eating meat, it's drinking wine, it's sitting with friends, it's teaching you how you can be a human being, but with the Shekhinah involved, and Hashem is there to guide you and to help you. And finally you get to Simchas Torah, Shmini Atzeres, and Hashem says, I want one more day with you to give you a hug. It's a big hug, and he says, after this hug, we have to bid farewell, but don't worry, I'll see you again next year. So Nathanael, the consultant for this yeshiva, actually played the part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, guiding them into this new era of success. And we go through this process every single year. And to look at these holidays as disconnected nodes that are just floating in the air is a big mistake. We have to look at the process. We have to live the process. It has to begin with Elul. It has to begin with defining our mission statement, which comes to the peak at Rosh Hashanah. We need to then go through the restructuring. We need to cut out the pieces of ourselves that are not supposed to be there. We need to deal with the debt, with the sins, with the mistakes that we made. And then we need to relaunch our new life into Sukkot, into Shmini Atzeres, and into our new year. And if we do that properly, if we have that siyata d'shmaya, if we have our eye on the prize and we realize the process that we're going through, then with siyata d'shmaya, with Hashem's help, there's no chance that we won't succeed. So everybody should have a bracha that this Elul should be a new Elul, a different Elul. That now that you have the keys to this process, you can actually go through it from beginning to end, and we can leave it and ultimately become the people we're meant to be.